Hello everyone, this is Video James here coming at you live with your Copa America predictions early on. Now, as we know, the Copa America is coming up, the Continental Cup for South America. We have 10 South American teams and 2 Asian teams competing for the Continental Cup of South America. An unusual race this time around. We have many great teams going in, and after the international friendly between Qatar and Brazil, we're seeing some new developments coming through. With Neymar Jr. being injured, we actually have a little bit more of a mixed bag than we once had predicted. A lot of people were originally predicting that Brazil would go on to the final, perhaps win the whole thing. Personally, even before Neymar was injured, I felt that Brazil at best was going to get second place, but now that Neymar is injured, a lot of things are starting to get a little bit more tricky. So without further ado, we're going to take a deep dive in and see what's happening with the Copa America. In Group A, we have Brazil, Peru, Venezuela, and Bolivia. Bolivia, one-time champion. Venezuela has never held the title, but has been getting closer and closer with more recent fixtures. Peru has won the title, I believe, in the past, last winning in 1982. And Brazil, every time they host the competition, they seem to win it, which is incredible. 100% win ratio when at home at the Estadio Nacional. In Group B, we have Argentina, led by Lionel Messi. We have Colombia, with James Rodriguez and Falcao. We also have Paraguay. And then we have Qatar, making their debut at the Copa America, the only team to be making their debut at the Copa America, because it's the first time they've ever been invited. And finally, in Group C, we have Uruguay, which hosts members such as Luis Suarez. We have Chile, the current Copa America champions, who were last champions in 2017, and then in the year before that in 2016. So Chile, despite missing out on the World Cup last year in 2018, are still having the champions bravado almost. They're some of the favorites going in. We also have Japan, who will be making their second appearance at the Copa America. Their last appearance was in 1998. And then finally we have, not 1998, mid-90s. And then finally we have Ecuador, the lowest ranked team in South America currently. Now, this is my first ever prediction video, so, Dominic Rich, FC, he said, in his first video it was cringeworthy. I'm sure this is going to come off cringeworthy as well, but I've made some pretty solid predictions outside of video, so I thought I might as well step into the ring, show off my own predictions, because they're a little bit different than what most people are suggesting. Mainly because somehow I managed to predict that Qatar would make it to the semifinals in the Asian Cup, and that was with Australia beating the Emirates, but then the Emirates just so happened to beat Australia, and then I said, well, since Japan has beaten Iran, which to me was the only team aside from Australia that was capable of beating Qatar, I told all my friends, hey, Qatar is going to win, it's going to be incredible, and everybody was like, you're crazy, and then look what happened. They conceded 1 goal in the whole tournament. Incredible. So, Group A, even though Neymar Jr. is no longer in the running, he is injured. He's out with an ankle injury after his friendly with Qatar. I will say Brazil will still manage first place in Group A. It's, to me, with the group they have, it's sometimes a faux pas to pick the top-seeded team, but every predictor out there, every pundit is saying Brazil, first place, Group A. Second place, I mean, most people would say that it's still kind of obvious is that Peru is going to move on and go into the quarterfinals because they are better than Bolivia. Bolivia, despite being a one-time champion, has hit it hard. They've hit the rocks pretty hard. Bolivia is not what it used to be. Then again, this is the Copa America. We've seen miracles happen before. Teams like Paraguay, Venezuela making it so far into these tournaments, I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to go above and beyond. But with that said, there is one team left to say, well, no, before I get into the two best third place teams are, Venezuela in third, Bolivia in last. They've hit the rocks. I don't know what to tell you. Group B. Our second group features Argentina, two-time World Cup champions. It also features Colombia, Paraguay, and Qatar. So the first match of this group is going to be Qatar versus Paraguay. And every prediction I see, I think only one person has said that, Qatar is going to do the opposite of what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks Paraguay is going to win this game 3-0, maybe 2-0, 4-0 is one of the wildest predictions I've seen. But I'm thinking the exact opposite. Yes, I do know that their international team, the best of their team, just lost to Brazil 2-0 after the first goal being scored in the 16th minute by Richarlison. And yes, I will concede to you. I'll say, yes, Qatar lost that very important friendly, especially considering that was their only tune-up before the Copa America. Even Brazil has another tune-up with Honduras later before the actual tournament. I will say, I think Qatar is going to beat Paraguay. Why? 2-0 loss with 5 shots on goal out of their 6 shots to goal from Qatar. That's pretty good. That's very good when facing a 5-time world champion, sorry. That's a very intense mark to beat. Most teams that were at Qatar's caliber last year, so in the 90s, let's say Lebanon, let's say Jordan, couldn't even make it out alive with a 2-0. They'd probably make it out 4-0. That's how bad the losses would be. Qatar is doing a lot better than that. They've passed they've passed every check that you can possibly imagine. Qatar is it's a pretty good Asian team. The Asian champions are doing a good job, and hence why I'm predicting that they will defeat Paraguay coming up. Then we have Colombia versus Argentina. This match is way more important, though. Colombia has James Rodriguez, Falcao. They have tons of excellent players. Argentina as well. Argentina has some world-class players like Lionel Messi. However, with the results I've been seeing out of Argentina, with how poorly Argentina has been doing, getting out in the round of 16 along with Colombia in the World Cup, Colombia performed a lot better in the World Cup, and they've been doing a lot better in general. I want to give this to Colombia. Colombia has the better they don't have the better striker. Lionel Messi's one of the better strikers, but as far as I'm concerned, the Colombian team is a lot more together than the Argentinian team. I'd love to be proved wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'll get a lot if I get any comments on this video of mine. I am sure I'm going to get a lot of "you're wrong," or after the tournament happens, like, "Haha, you were insane." I'd love to, hear just how wrong I am. But right now, Colombia are going to be my favorites for this group. Even though Argentina is the top seed, Colombia's just been consistently better. I'm a lot more confident in their abilities, whereas with Argentina, I get worried. They open up a lot of holes, especially in their defense once it comes down to it. Lionel Messi is amazing offensively, but the minute the defense starts to break down, that's all that matters. Argentina will fall apart. They didn't do well in the World Cup at all. Even though you could argue it, I mean, we almost saw Nigeria take second place over Argentina. The only thing that stopped them was some lucky goal very late into the game. Then, well, we have Qatar versus Colombia. I'm not going to say Qatar is going to beat Colombia in this miraculous dark horse victory. Absolutely not. Colombia is going to hand Qatar their supper, and they're going to eat it. Colombia is going to top this group, in my opinion. And then I'm a little bit less confident with what's going to happen with the rest of the group. I am putting Paraguay in last, Colombia in first. I am going to say, crazily enough, Qatar is going to manage a draw with Argentina. That's crazy, right? But I think based off of goal difference, unless Lionel Messi can somehow manage to dismantle Paraguay, which I doubt. Paraguay is full of great players. It's a great team. Their manager is doing excellent. I think Qatar, through a draw with Argentina, is going to manage to take the second place position and Argentina third. Again, tell me how crazy I am in the comments, but we'll find out. In Group C, which will be our final group of the tournament, we have Uruguay, the top-seeded team. We have Chile, the current champions. We have Japan, and then we have Ecuador. I'm not gonna bore you too much with the results of this one. Uruguay, I think, are going to top this team. They're an easy first place pick. Again, a faux pas to pick the top-seeded team, but Uruguay is the one. Second place, I'm going to put Chile. Chile, despite not doing so well this past year, despite failing to qualify for the World Cup, despite their two-time continental championship identity, they're not going to top. They are good enough to hit second place, and I think going into the quarterfinals, that's a fair assessment. Then we're going to have our third place team, Japan. I don't think that'll come as a shocker to anybody. Ecuador has been doing quite poorly. I mean, if people are thinking that Japan is better than Qatar, though if you watch the finals of the Asian Cup, you'd disagree. You'd note that in a friendly during the tune-up for the Asian Cup, Qatar dismantled the Ecuadorian defense, and Ecuador couldn't even get past anybody. So Ecuador, sad to say, I'm going to put in last place, but my two best third-place teams. Without a doubt, Argentina, best third-place team. You can't argue with me on that, personally. The second best third-place team, I'm going to put as Venezuela. Venezuela, once again, has been doing a lot better and better and better. I wouldn't be surprised within, I'd say, the next 8 years, Venezuela actually tops and manages to hit a miraculous world championship if their economy is able to recover and refinance the Venezuelan Football Association. Now, we're going into the quarterfinals. The first match should be the third place team. First of all, we have Brazil, who topped. That's the first place team in the first bracket on the A side. So let's imagine it this way. We've got Brazil, and then we have a third place team. Since it can't be Venezuela, therefore it'll be Argentina. Argentina, sad to say, I think for the first time in a very long time, they're going to go out in the quarterfinals. It's quite a wild assumption. But I do think that this is not Argentina's year, wildly enough. I do not think Lionel Messi is going to get past Brazil, especially when they have the home turf advantage, especially since statistically Statistically speaking, Brazil has a 100% win rate when they are performing in the Estadio Nacional, when the Seleção is performing with the rest of Brazil behind them. Even so, we've seen crazier things happen. I don't like bringing up the 7-1, but the 7-1 happened. It's a fact of life. We also saw Brazil go out in the quarterfinals, but they still managed a better result, a far better result than Argentina did in the World Cup. Next, we have two of our second place teams. We have Peru and Qatar. That's the second place team of Group A and the second place team of Group B. Again, funnily enough, I'm going to predict Qatar. I mean, if you know me, I'm kind of a bit of a Qatar football advocate. It's not surprising why. They also have some incredible players that just popped out of the woodworks. Bassam Al-Rawi, the Iraqi Qatari player, he has been excellent in the midfield. Almoez Ali has been an excellent striker, though I'm unsure if he'll be able to repeat his success from the Asian Cup. We'll see come this tournament if he's able to repeat his success. We also have Saad Al-Sheib, who is the best goalkeeper in Asia right now, considering he kept a clean sheet for 6 out of 7 games, with only conceding 1 goal in the final against Japan. And then Hassan Al-Haidos, even though he's not really one of the best players, the captain of the team, has somehow managed to take control of the reins. Same with Felix Sanchez, the coach. Felix Sanchez has managed to field an excellent team. It's very high caliber. I think it's a team to look forward to be going into the semifinals of the Copa America during their debut. Next up, we're going to be having the first place team of Group B, which would be Colombia, going up against the third place team of either Groups A or C. And since I predicted that Venezuela will be going through from third place, it will be Colombia versus Venezuela, the two neighbors. Once again, Venezuela coming in at third. It wouldn't be surprising. It's a little bit more surprising that they managed to get it into the quarterfinals. But Colombia, hands down, has the better team, better players, better coaching staff. Venezuela is in a little bit dire straits as a country. Their funding of football in Venezuela is starting to decline. The players aren't as impressive. I'll have to say that Colombia is going to go through into the semifinals. Finally, we have Uruguay. No, wait, I messed this up. Big embarrassment for me. So, Colombia wouldn't actually be going up against Venezuela. Colombia would actually be going up against Chile. I'm doing this all off the top of my head. I don't have notes. I know how unprofessional of me. Still, Chile hasn't been performing so well. Even so, Colombia, I do still believe, would knock Chile out. I feel bad for our guys in Santiago, but Chile, you haven't been able to step it up for a while unless they prove something to me before the event, especially after a 2-1 win against Haiti, which is not impressive by any means as far as international friendlies go, especially when it's your tune-up game. I don't think Chile is going to make it through. I think Colombia is going to win that game quite handily. Now, we're moving on. I'm sorry I messed up. Uruguay versus Venezuela for the final bracket in the quarterfinals. But even now, that actually sets an even harsher tone on Venezuela because Uruguay, to me, is the better team. They have Luis Suarez, and they have a very experienced midfield that is unmatched in international football today. Their defense is quite solid. These guys managed to make it to the quarterfinals with Brazil. Not against Brazil, but they made it to the quarterfinals. Uruguay is a very consistent team. For such a small country, they're quite a consistent team. Venezuela, like I said, is just improving as best they can over and over and over again. And they got stuck with a really tough group in Group A. If they managed to beat Peru, I could see them beating Qatar, surprisingly enough, which would send them into the semifinals. But if they can only manage third place going up against Uruguay, they're toast. I don't see Venezuela having a snowball's chancer, in their case because their national sport's baseball, a baseball's chance in hell beating Uruguay. Now we're going on to the semifinals. We have Brazil versus Qatar, and we have Colombia versus Uruguay. Now I'm not going to make the wild prediction again. I'm seeing Brazil beating Qatar. They beat Qatar in their international friendly, though I will say that to me the tune-up match was more so, all right, team, we're going to get a feel for how the Brazilian team works. We're going to see what we can do in case we meet them. Let's discuss. But I'm not seeing that currently. What I'm seeing is Qatar getting probably dismantled by Brazil. Despite that, I mean, not dismantled. They'll lose, but I think they're going to play for a good game. I don't really think they're going to put any goals in the net. I think the Seleção is very good. Ederson is one of the best goalies in the world. I do not personally see Qatar managing to get past that Brazilian defense, despite their accuracy, despite Saad Al-Shaib on their defense being such a good goalie. I just don't see the Maroons beating the Seleção. Then we have Uruguay and Colombia. So Brazil's going on into the finals, beating Qatar. And then we have Uruguay and Colombia. This one's a bit harder. But in the back of my head, constantly, I've been just thinking, the final has to be Brazil versus Uruguay. It is the matchup. And Uruguay knows it. Uruguay knows that this is the match that they want. They want to meet Brazil in the finals. To repeat, sadly, 1954. Or 1950. I believe it was 1950, where Uruguay had beaten the Brazilian national team in the finals on Brazilian turf. Not to say anything poorly of the Colombian national team. The Colombian national team is excellent. Not to say that this game should be based all on spirit. But I will say James Rodriguez and Falcao are both very young. And even though they're spry and talented, the Uruguay national team, even though they're a bit older on average, they're not old enough to lose that youthful energy that they've had. I do think that these players are still some of the best in the world. And Uruguay coming out on top against Colombia into the finals is not a mark on Colombian football. I do believe that the Colombians are one of the best national teams out there. In fact, I'd be shocked if they didn't get to the minimum, the quarterfinals in 2022 for the World Cup, because they're just that good. But I am seeing Uruguayans advancing into the finals. Now, before we get into our final match, Brazil versus Uruguay, we do have to talk about the third place match. Once again, I think Colombia is the better team. Colombia to beat Qatar, it's pretty obvious. Maybe Qatar can manage a goal, but the offense on the Colombian side is too intense for it to count. You know what I mean? I'm predicting maybe a 3-1 win, maybe a 4-1 win. Qatar would be lucky with a 2-1 win, but then again, they'd be lucky making a goal at all. So Qatar fourth, Colombia third. And now for the final, we have Brazil versus Uruguay. Brazil still has a host of amazing players. Richarlison, Jesus, Ederson, you can't really argue with the players. The coaching staff has thus far been excellent for Brazil. But Uruguay knows what they're doing. They've studied Brazil for years. And Brazil will studying Uruguay for years. Hasn't been so intent on beating Uruguay. So it's probably the tougher match to predict. But I'm going for the top-seeded team. I'm going for the best team in South America to win the Cup, to win the Copa America for what the Brazilians will be their fourth ever championship. I think in the year 2019, the Brazilians, the Seleção, will beat the Uruguayan national team and lift the Copa America way above their heads for a sweet, sweet victory. Anyways, you've been watching my first ever prediction video on the topic of football. International football is what I crave. I'd like to thank so many football channels for inspiring this. I'm in no way sponsored by them. I just feel like they should get a shout out. Dominic Rich FC, Football Pharaoh, DW Kickoff, Tifo Football, HITC Live, BR Football, as in Bleacher Report Football. But those first guys definitely have helped me to think, hey, maybe my predictions aren't as crazy as I thought, but at the same time, hey, maybe it's kind of notable that, some of these prediction channels are getting important. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to that prediction, that state where people are going, okay, some people are noticing other things that others are not. And with me claiming that Qatar would make it to the semifinals is one of the craziest things that you're probably going to hear on the internet right now. But then again, I predicted these guys making it to the semifinals, minimum of the Asian Cup, and after I saw the Emirates shockingly defeat Australia, I knew Qatar was going to win the Asian Cup. I have made a lot of predictions along the way that turned out to be right. So we're just going to see where it goes from there. Thank you for watching this half-an-hour video about my predictions for the Copa America. I encourage you to check out other guys, and I encourage you to criticize me in the comments below. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you want to, though that would hurt my feelings. Subscribe, maybe hit the notification button, because I'm going to be doing this a little bit more often. So thank you very much. This has been James, Video James, signing off.